Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Dirks, and on behalf of ACRL and Choice, I'd like to welcome you to today's program, Subscription to Own versus PDA, a closer look at video acquisition models in 2016, which is sponsored by Alexander Street. Today's discussion is one in a series of sponsored webinars from ACRL and Choice that addresses new ideas, developments, and products of interest to the academic library community. Free to users, these structured 60-minute live presentations provide the opportunity for interactive discussions of important new issues and developments in academic librarianship by librarians, vendors, authors, and other interested stakeholders. Before we get started, I'd like to point out a few features of the webinar software. In the main area of the screen, you can follow along with the presentation materials. Along the left-hand side, you will see a chat panel that you can use to submit questions or comments. We will spend some time responding to your questions during the program, so please feel free to submit questions throughout. You will also see a separate box for technical questions. Please feel free to use this feature for any technical issues you may be experiencing, so our production team can troubleshoot those issues privately. And finally, please note that today's program will be recorded and all registrants will receive follow-up instructions on how to access the archived version. Our speakers today are Kylie Caldwell, Sales Manager, and Keith Allen, Vice President of Sales, Key Markets at Alexander Street. At this point, we're ready to get started, so I will turn the floor over to you, Kylie.
Hello, everyone. As mentioned, I'm Kylie Caldwell. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us today. I'm really happy to have you here. And Keith, if you want to say hello as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Keith Allen from Alexander Street, and it's a pleasure to have you join us this afternoon. We look forward to sharing some exciting information about the video landscape. And thanks again for joining us.
So for a little bit about our agenda today, what we're going to talk about is some different acquisition models. We'll start just by going over the general lay of the land in video acquisitions right now, and then we're going to dig in a little bit more closely on two different kind of models that are available, and then we'll have some time at the end for questions. So please save them up. And I will jump in right now with our beginning. So for those of you who don't know who we are, we're Alexander Street. We were founded in 2000, and we're based here in Alexandria, Virginia. And we are the largest provider of streaming video and music to libraries. We have over 60,000 titles in video, over 8 million streaming audio tracks, and we work with over 1,500 content partners. About 50% of our content is unique to Alexander Street Press. And we really aim to have a platform that meets really high accessible standards so that it is really top of the line for learning, teaching, and research for all of our different users. And we have over 2.5 million active users on our platform. Just to give you a little background of who you're listening to. So to jump into the video landscape today, when we look at studies, we see that video really directly impacts student learning and student learning outcomes. Students learn from a wide variety of experts, and they get the closest approximation to firsthand experience. So they get to watch that famous lecturer, or observe the ritual that they're reading about in their anthropology class, or see a beautiful dance performance, or a couple of different ways that different troupes handle performances, and get to compare that in a way that they wouldn't necessarily have access to. And in doing so, video really helps extend the classroom both in time and space. This is one of the reasons we see it as very popular in hybrid and online classes. But students are also using it to extend and customize their classroom experience in traditional classrooms. When we think about what student behavior is these days, students tell us that they really loved being able to pause and take notes, that they can return to video later, rewatch things. And these digitally native students are really comfortable with a video platform, and so video is a great way to meet them where they are. And what we see is that the data backs that up as well, that 68% of students watch video in the classroom, so a huge number of students are being assigned video, but even more go on to actually voluntarily watch video to help improve their own understanding. 79% of students report voluntarily seeking out video. So faculty is driving video and students are driving video. And as a result, the demand in libraries is rapidly growing. And acquiring video becomes very important to library acquisitions right now. But because it's a relatively new medium and because there's so many different models, the means of acquiring video can seem kind of intimidating if your library hasn't yet done that. In addition, when we look at library budgets, they continue to be a challenge. In North America, budgets have largely remained flat, which of course, as we know, experience is actually a cut because of rising costs of subscriptions. The libraries are faced with having to cut something to add anything new, and of course there's just really increased scrutiny on anything that a library wants to add to make sure that you're getting the best possible solutions with limited funds. Of course, I am not saying anything new to anyone here on this phone call. So what I want to do is just take a quick pause to get a sense of who here has video. So if you want to just answer the poll that will pop up on your screen. Does your library currently include streaming video? Yes, we have a large streaming video collection. Yes, we have some streaming video. Not yet, but there's interest. And no, there is not interest. Great. So we can see from these results that are still coming in that a huge number of folks already have some video in their library. Some of you don't have it yet, but there's interest. And of course, I'll acknowledge that the folks who would sign up for this webinar probably self-select out for the last category. No, there is not interest. But we do know that the interest is there, that the demand is growing. So if we want to then jump to so if we jump to the next slide, for a long time, the different means of acquiring video, there were two core questions that had to be asked for your acquisition model. Does your library want to purchase or subscribe? And do you want a single title or do you want a collection? And so that was the matrix of questions that you had to ask. But of course, as we know, the space is changing rapidly. So as you noticed, last slide said acquiring video yesterday, acquiring video today, because that's how quick it feels like these things are changing. Now we have demand-driven acquisition. And so as you see, the matrix of options starts growing. What's great about this is that there's a huge amount of flexibility. Every library is different, and so you can find a solution that meets your needs. But that means also that you have to navigate all these different options and try to figure out what's going to be the best solution for you. And so what we're going to do today, hopefully, is walk through not only some different models, but some different criteria that can be applied to different models to figure out what's going to be the best solution for you. I have another poll for us before we go on, just to get a sense of what kind of models you've already been using in your library. So what are some of the ways your library has acquired streaming video? Single titles, discipline-specific video collections, comprehensive cross-disciplinary video collections, patron-driven acquisition or PDA, subscription to own, or not sure. Great. So as we can see, a whole bunch of different models are getting used. There's a representation from all of them. As you can see, subscription to own is a smaller percentage, but that's because it's been only actually around for a few months. It's a really new solution. And so again, we can see libraries are using all these different kinds of models to come up with the best solution. So what we know is video improves learning outcomes and is in demand. There's a wide variety of different ways that your library can acquire video, and budgets are very tight, so picking the right model and solution is really important. So how do we evaluate that? And I think there's really two different buckets for evaluating video. One is about content, and the other is about the model. We're going to talk mostly about the model, but just real briefly to touch on how you are evaluating content. Obviously, if the faculty is requesting this or endorsing the content, that makes it very important. We know then it's going to get used. It'll drive students and faculty to spend more time in it. Relatedly, it's very important that it's relevant to the curriculum. And the content, ideally, is both very authoritative, it's very expert, but also that is a wide breadth of content that's covered. Also, it's important, increasingly today, that the video solution that you do add is compatible with accessibility standards so that all of your patrons can find and use that content. And if we jump to the next question, it's about how do we evaluate the acquisition model. So we've identified 6 main buckets or evaluation criteria. So number 1 is data. You need to be able to tell a story of use for your resources to make sure that they're getting used, and also just to make sure that you can monitor to see where they're getting used, where they can be grown. Maybe you have one department that's really using video a lot. Maybe there's one department that isn't, and then you know you want to go have conversations with them, etc. The locus of control becomes very important. And I should also note that of these different buckets, every library is going to weight these differently, right? For some folks, data is king. For some folks, cost predictability is the most important issue. So your own library is going to put different weights on these different metrics. Locus of control is a question of who do you want to be driving the video that you acquire? Do you want patron use to drive that? Or do you want the library to be able to have more hands-on control? Cost predictability, is it important to your library that you know exactly how much you're going to spend on video each year, or do you maybe have some flexibility there? How important is ownership, both in terms of having perpetual access to that and in terms of avoiding ongoing costs? Return on investment, I think, is a really important and interesting one, because ultimately return on investment means something a little bit different for different libraries. What it really means is how is your library defining value. For example, some folks are going to be really invested in what is the cost per view. Other folks are going to be really curious about cost per title. Sometimes those line up. Sometimes they result in there are different results there. So ROI and value is going to be a custom solution for your unique library, and you're going to define it differently. Which brings us to comprehensive solution. What we'll see when we get to the case studies is that folks are really looking at a comprehensive solution. It's something that's going to bring video to their classroom and their library and their students and be an ongoing solution that can keep going. And the way that you're going to figure out what is the comprehensive solution is ultimately going to be based on these different evaluative criteria. And so the comprehensive solution is going to look a little bit different for different libraries. So as we go through the 2 different models that we're going to dig into a bit more, these are some of the key guiding questions for us. Number 1, how does each model work? How does each model address my evaluation criteria? And then who is each model a good fit for? How can my library maximize its effectiveness? So without further ado, I'm going to turn the speaker over to Keith, and he will talk to us a little bit about patron-driven acquisition.
Thank you, Kylie. Patron-driven acquisition is not a new concept in library acquisition in general. However, for video, it has risen in prominence in the last 2 to 3 years. And the focus of this webinar, as given by the title, is really focusing on the 2 newest acquisition models currently available in the library landscape for video, the patron-driven acquisition model and a subscription-to-own model. And it's these 2 that we will be focusing on this afternoon. Patron-driven acquisitions. Next slide, please. For patron-driven acquisition, I will apply using our Alexander Street PDA collection as the exemplar. However, generally speaking, the characteristics of PDA for streaming video have common characteristics across all available vendors for the medium. In general, for PDA, a library will begin the process by setting an amount they wish to spend on PDA. And the key elements to this decision are how much the library intends to spend, and even more importantly, over what duration the library predicts they will actually spend that amount of money. If it's going to be a set amount per a 12-year period, or if it's multiple years, that is an important consideration because the rate of spend in that account becomes a key metric in measuring the effectiveness and duration of that PDA relationship. For Alexander Street, we currently offer, actually it's grown a bit, 27,000 video titles across multiple disciplines that are available on the PDA model. And the PDA model is very simple. All users within the institution are given access to the entire array of titles, and each user can look at a preview or at any length of video within the collection, and after a 30-second period is reached, the video playback is counted towards an event. We'll call it a trigger. After 4 such playbacks within the existing relationship with the PDA collection, the trigger actually activates a 1-year subscription to that title. With Alexander Street, however, we offer additional options. In addition to offering a default 1-year subscription to that particular title once triggered after 4 playbacks of 30 seconds duration or greater, the library can also choose to have that title upgrade to a 3-year subscription for longer duration, or the library can choose to have that title held in perpetuity. So at the PDA level, even though the locus of control rests with the patron group, the library can choose the duration of the relationship with the title itself at the time that it's triggered. Next slide, please. So in measuring it against those major decision criteria, again, emphasizing the fact that every library situation is unique. And so by going through this process, what you're starting to see is the different attributes of the acquisition model take on different levels of importance based on your particular library needs, budget situation, decision criteria, standard operating procedure, and other factors. So in the category of return on investment, and really, again, that is a definition that you would apply based on your own situation, because there is no single definition that suits all. But in general, the benefit to PDA from a cost per use standpoint or a general economic metric is that you pay only for that's your patron's view. And by viewing that they have triggered a title after 4 playbacks of 30 seconds duration or greater. And that, in addition, that upon upgrading your titles to purchase, you can actually curate a specialty collection based on user behavior and customize it accordingly. The data that is used in making the decision is a little different than what we'll talk about with the subscription to ownership model, and that the data occurs early in the cycle, that the playbacks are the data elements that trigger the title, that triggers the relationship with the title. And this is I'm going to draw a contrast with this versus the subscription to ownership model, which it takes a slightly different approach. The locus of control, the distinction here, of course, with PDA, is that it rests with the patron user community. So that while the library, of course, has overarching administrative control over the array of titles that are offered, ultimately, the titles that are chosen to be added to the collection for at least a period of 1 year, if not greater, rests with the user community. Now, this has wide-ranging effects from titles that are selected that may or may not be in keeping with the library's collection to those titles in high demand that becomes economically feasible for the library to keep it for a year or more, or perhaps to keep it in perpetuity. Next slide, please. I'm going to turn this over back to you. Take it from here.
Great. So I'm just going to give us an example of a case study of someone who is using PDA as their solution. In this case, College of William and Mary. So their objectives in trying to find a video solution is that they have to support both undergrad and graduate curriculum on campus, and they also want to make sure that the video is appropriate for both classroom use and research. There's a really strong emphasis on working with their faculty and educating faculty who are familiar with video on these different modes of video, different research and classroom options. And so as a result, what we've seen already in our notes already is that students are clamoring for more video. And so they approach the resources differently. And as a result, College of William and Mary found it increasingly difficult to anticipate what patron needs were going to be. Space is changing rapidly, there's a lot of demand, and that can make purchasing video, specifically the right video, difficult. So they found PDA to be a great solution because it really is in line with how students and faculty are using video. They know that the video that they're purchasing is the video that's going to be used, and that saves them the costly and expensive guesswork of trying to choose videos that might end up not actually being the ideal solution. So when we spoke to College of William and Mary, Georgie Donovan, who's the Associate Dean of Collections there, says said, "We must be knowledgeable about how students today conceive of media. They expect anywhere, anytime access. We don't want to be in a position to mediate what they request." And so for William and Mary, really having a comprehensive and in terms of a large amount of video and a rapid response in terms of videos that they wanted was there right away was really important to them. And they found PDA to be the solution that fits that model. What I'm going to do now is turn it back over to Keith so he can jump into our alternative video acquisition model, which is subscription to own.
Thank you, Kylie. In the past several months, a new kid on the block has arrived, and the purpose behind this webinar is primarily to highlight the similarities, but more importantly, the fundamental differences between the two newest models in video acquisition for libraries, so that librarians can make informed decisions independently and collectively within the collections and within these models to suit their particular needs. And these models do peacefully coexist, but they do have specific differences that are worth highlighting and are merit consideration when acquiring new video. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Subscription to own. This is a new model that for us in that we've launched it in the last 6 months, and it has some unique attributes. It is exemplified by our flagship collection, Academic Video Online Premium. It also has a partner version, Public Video Online Premium, which has the same attributes. But for the purposes of this webinar, we'll of course focus on the academic version. Academic Video Online Premium is our largest, most comprehensive, broadest and deepest collection of videos. At present, it currently stands at over 48,000 unique titles, ranging from documentaries, feature films, silent films, and far-ranging content across multiple disciplines, with over half of the content unique to Alexander Street. This collection is subscribed to on an annual basis, and in so doing, the user community receives unlimited streaming of all of the titles within the collection, as well as all new titles that are added to the collection during the subscription period. Thus, it is fundamentally different from PDA at the beginning because there is no triggering event for the collection in that the subscription cost covers the unlimited streams for the entirety of the collection for the duration of the subscription period. However, there's an added twist. At the end of the subscription cycle, we'll say it's 1 year, you have the option, and we certainly encourage you to exercise it, of receiving ownership credits commensurate with the amount of your spend on the subscription. And these are transferred as ownership of the individual titles within the collection of your choosing. So the key elements here are that the subscription itself contains within its cost structure a certain number of credits issued per institution that subscribes, and at the end of the 12-month cycle, you have the option of choosing a set number of titles within the collection that you would own in perpetuity, and there is no additional charge for this. How it works is we set a standard value divided into the amount of the subscription, and that releases the number of credits. At that point, you have upwards of a full year's worth of usage data, counter-compliant data, with which to help you make informed decisions on the titles that you select. Now, a fundamental difference here is the locus of control rests with the librarians, and the data used to support that decision-making is based upon usage data over upwards of a 12-month period. Again, this is a fundamental difference with PDA in that where with PDA, the data decision-making criteria occurs fairly early on in the process. With our subscription to own model, the decision to keep a title in perpetuity occurs after approximately 1 year's worth of usage data. Now, that isn't the sole criterion in which you would use to select a title for perpetual ownership. It could be a title that suits a particular research need, a title that you feel that would be beneficial to the collection and that you feel may not be available longer online, and you'd like to make sure that you have it in the collection in perpetuity, or for any other reason. But most importantly, the decision to select the titles for perpetual ownership rests with you. And again, this is included in the subscription cost at no additional charge, and each year that the institution subscribes, you receive another set of credits. The longer you subscribe, the more credits you receive, and the more titles you get to own in perpetuity. slide, please. So going back to our core criteria, how does the subscription to own model differ, and what are its core attributes relative to the PDA model? At the beginning, you have the access to the complete collection in its entirety with new titles added, with unlimited streaming of any length with no triggering event. At the end of the subscription cycle, you have the option to select titles within the collection that you would like to keep, so you are curating your collection with ownership, but it's based upon a different set of criteria. The data-driven model exists, however, it is fundamentally different from PDA in that it occurs after a period of demonstrated use. You could say that this is something of a blended evidence-based model within a subscription model. The evidence being the counter usage data that's used to support a decision. Again, you're not required to use that, it's simply a guideline. And the locus of control from beginning to end rests with the library administrative community. As you have control over the subscription relationship, you also have ultimate title control on the selection of titles for perpetual ownership. Those decisions are, of course, supported by user behavior and other needs as you see fit. Ultimately, though, however, you are given the flexibility to curate the collection based on your needs, and every library will choose accordingly. Next slide, please. I believe that goes over to Kylie.
Great. Thanks so much. So going back to another case study of a university that's already using this subscription to own model, Eastern Kentucky University. What they found with their objectives that when they were trying to find a video solution is that the needs of their patrons are rapidly changing. And so they really want to be a leader. They want to be out in front of the change, which echoes back to what William & Mary is looking for, right? Things are changing quickly, and we want to have a solution that has a quick response time. Eastern Kentucky University, so if they have a limited budget with lots of requests coming in, and so they want to be able to meet those requests, but they also want to maintain some control. They want to be an active part of the process of figuring out what videos they're going to add to their perpetual collection. And so for them, subscription to own felt like the best value because of the scope of the video. There's a huge number of videos that are part of this collection, and because it's one solution because there's such a wide scope, they can market one solution to their faculty. They have to get their faculty invested in one solution instead of a number of different kinds of platforms and vendors. And as a result, they feel that will drive usage. And then the library can then build their own collection of titles that they own in perpetuity based on that usage, based on that feedback. When we spoke to Victoria Koger, they are the collection management librarian there at EKU. She said, we are looking for individual titles requested by faculty takes time and is often unsuccessful. We need a comprehensive video resource that we can market to the whole university. And so once again, echoing back to PDA, what people are looking for is, again, a comprehensive solution. And as we can see, comprehensive solution means something a little bit different to different libraries based on what their needs are. And the great news is that because there's a number of different models out there for you, that comprehensive solution is out there. It's just a matter of really picking which one is going to work for you. So in summation, I just want to take a brief snapshot of this at-a-glance chart comparing PDA to subscription to own based on the evaluation criteria that we laid out. And again, noting that your library is going to weigh these different buckets differently. So when it comes to data, PDA is of course data-driven. What we see is that the acquisition is based on a relatively limited number of playbacks, right? After 4 views, then a one-year subscription is triggered. Whereas with Avon, you do get a whole year's worth of data to make your decisions of what you're going to add to your collection. So data informs the selection, but is not immediately controlling the selection. Whereas and relatedly, the locus of control with subscription to own sits with the librarians. They're the ones who are ultimately making the decision. And with PDA, the patrons are really driving and in large part in control of what titles get triggered. Of course, there are some metrics in there, some ways in there for the library to have some control with PDA. You get to set your own spending cap. You get to decide if you want to upgrade And relatedly, patrons do have influence on the subscription to own because you're going to take that usage data with the ownership component. PDA, in Alexander Street model, over 95% of the titles are available for ownership. And so you can go ahead and upgrade those titles. You can choose to do that. There is an extra cost that goes along with that. The subscription to own, the ownership is integrated with the subscription cost, and you have to just go through and actually select those titles. When it comes to cost predictability, PDA has somewhat limited cost predictability. You get to set your own spending cap, but your user behavior dictates the rate of spend. So if PDA is far more popular than you expected, which in one way is great to hear, people want to use the resource that you picked, you could end up in a situation where the cap that you set out expecting to last a full year ends up only lasting 6 months, and then you have to decide if you want to up that cap or if you want to bow out of the program. Whereas the subscription to own, the cost predictability is very predictable. There's an annual subscription rate, and there are no surprise costs or unexpected costs. You know each year what your subscription to own is going to cost you. And then with return on investment, as we said, this is going to vary for your library depending on how you determine value. So what we decided to do here was a little potential plus or minus for you. So for PDA, you're paying for what your patrons use, but there are fewer titles available and you have less control. With subscription to own, you have more titles. There's a low cost per title. And the potential downside is that you have to take the manpower to actually review those titles. Some see that as a plus, some see that as a negative if you don't have the means to do that. So as we can see, there's a whole bunch of different ways in which these models help solve the solution. But at the end of the day, they both can be a really great comprehensive solution for your unique library. And what we're hoping that today, what we could do for you is highlight some different evaluation criteria that a number of different libraries are using and allow to give you some metrics that you can apply those to your own library, your own needs, your own questions, and then present two different models that are out there for you to acquire video so you can assess and see if one of these might be a good fit for you. I hope that this was helpful for you. You can see that we have a few questions already starting to come in. Please keep them coming in the chat section over there. And Keith and I are going to begin answering some questions for you. Keith, I'll let you take the first one.
Hello. Okay. We're scrolling to the top, and the question pertains to what determines the choice of a 30-second viewing time in order to determine an official use of video versus some other length of time. For the PDA model, the playback threshold is 30 seconds or longer, and it could be you could watch the entire duration of the video or 90 seconds or 15 minutes, but once it crosses the 30-second threshold, it is considered a playback event, and once the fourth such event occurs, then it is triggered for the subscription.
We had a couple different questions that I'm going to combine. One person asked if they already have Avon, do they get this benefit of the subscription to own? And I want to say yes, if you already have Avon, you already get to do this. So talk to your rep to figure out the process by which you can select those titles. And someone else relatedly asked, do the credits roll over? So each year with Avon, at the end of the year, you're going to go ahead and pick your titles. You want to do that each year because the titles don't actually roll over to the next. So you'll pick your titles for, say, 2016, and at the end of 2017, you'll pick a new batch of titles.
To clarify on the eligibility for current academic video online premium customers, for all subscriptions, either new or renewing, that commenced as of January 1st, 2016, are automatically eligible. Therefore, if you have a subscription that is due for renewal, let's say you subscribed last July and you're due for renewal, let's say June 30th of this year, upon your renewal on July 1st, you are automatically enrolled in Avon to Own. But for those folks who have commenced subscriptions as of January 1st of this year or later, you have started in on the program. The account management team is sending out welcome kits as each subscribing library becomes eligible for the program that explains how the program works and what information you'll be receiving in the coming months to help you make your selection decisions at the end of your subscription term. Want to take another one, Kylie?
Thanks. Yes, great. So someone else just asked how many titles can be purchased with subscription to own. So the number of titles that can be purchased is actually based on your rate of subscription. So a library that has a higher subscription rate due to their size is going to be able to purchase a few more videos. A library with a smaller subscription rate due to their size is going to be able to purchase a fewer number of videos. So it's when we give you a quote, we'll be able to provide you the number of videos that you'd be able to buy each year.
To add some additional nuance, the titles in which you're receiving ownership rights are actually given to you at no charge. So there's no purchasing event so much as we are transferring ownership rights to you at no cost. The mathematical model for that is very simple. Let's say a library subscribes to Academic Video Online Premium in the amount of $10,000 for an annual subscription. At the end of that subscription term, you will receive 20 credits, each credit corresponding to any video title you choose. It could be silent film, documentary, feature film, any particular research title, anything you want. And you would receive 20 videos of your choosing with ownership rights automatically. Now, the access is exactly the same as you would have received before, but the distinction is if for some reason in the future you cancel your subscription to the Academic Video Online Premium collection, you would retain access to those titles in perpetuity. A related question is regarding hosting fees for the titles. At this time, we do not charge hosting fees for the titles that are given on a gratis basis with the ownership rights for the subscriber community. This is primarily because the number of titles involved is relatively small. At this point, we do not see a need to charge fees for those titles. They're simply included in your subscription.
Someone else also just asked if a couple people were asking about being able to embed clips. So just speaking to Alexander Street Platform in general, both with PDA and subscription to own and any of our streaming video, you can make clips, you can make playlists, you can embed those clips in your learning management software. Our clips, our videos do have captions, to answer another question that came up, do have captions you can turn on or off, as well as our platform is JAWS compatible. So if you have students with visual impairment, they'll be able to navigate the site using JAWS software.
A really key question came up regarding, is there an additional cost for subscription to own versus a normal, what they call a lease package? And the important distinction here is Academic Video Online Premium is simply a subscription to ownership model. In other words, it is a traditional subscription price model. The ownership credits is a value add at no additional charge. In other words, there is no cost related to that. We are simply providing that as a value-added service. And the Academic Video Online Premium product is actually our master collection. It is the largest collection we have, and it is made up of elements of many, many, many of our individual research collections. And it provides broad spectrum access to multiple disciplines with 48,000 titles and growing, and is designed for a very broad range of audiences from undergraduate institutions through PhD caliber students. The reason for this is between the semantic indexing and the transcription of the content itself, there is a wide range of applications for the content within the collection. The point of access is exactly the same through the interface, and the library still has the rights, of course, at the end of the subscription term to choose the titles they want in perpetuity. But this collection is designed to be a one-stop shop that is the best of what we have to offer across all of our subject disciplines. A related question involves what percentage of the titles within the 48,000 are eligible for the ownership rights with no additional charge? And the answer is nearly all of them. The good news is we've secured the rights with the information providers, bearing in mind too that over half of them are exclusive to Alexander Street, for the ownership rights to be transferred to the subscribing library. So chances are, when you go to choose your titles using your data or whatever criteria you choose, you're going to find the titles that you want to keep.
Someone else just asked if MARC records are available. Just want to let you know that that comes with all of our collections, both PDA and academic video online, and all of our platforms in general. You're going to be able to find MARC records. Someone else was asking about a specific number, just to build off of what Keith just said. So for PDA, the specific number is over 95% of our videos are available to upgrade to purchase. And it's a similar number with Avon. So really the overwhelming vast majority you're going to be able to add to your permanent collection. There's just a few that are excluded due to rights.
So the question came up, and I was anticipating this one, is the distinction between what we offer and what Canopy currently offers. And I think the important distinction here is what Canopy offers is a competitor to our PDA product. Canopy by nature offers a PDA model for their series of videos. And we have a PDA model that competes with theirs. In other words, it's a very similar approach where you have title selection at the user level, you have the locus of control within the user community, you have a wide range of titles available, there's a triggering event that results in a relationship with that title for a period of 1 year at least, or perhaps more. So really, on an apples to apples basis, our PDA and Canopy are in the same general acquisition model. Avon to Own, or Academic Video Online Premium, is a fundamentally different model in that it is completely apples to pomegranates in this case, where the fundamental difference is it is a collection of videos that are available on a subscription basis as a total group with unlimited streaming, no triggering event, and it is at flat cost per year for the entire subscription. And within that benefits array is the ownership credits based on the amount of your spend. So that is the fundamental distinction here, is when looking at the array of options available, including Canopy, including Alexander Street, is that Alexander Street Academic Video Online Premium and Canopy's fundamental product are, at their very core, very, very different. And those distinctions are very important, and we're happy to give you additional information on how our Academic Video Online Premium product works. But the easiest takeaway is that our PDA and theirs are much more directly competitive than our Avon product.
Another question that just came in, Sarah Prindle asked, how would the videos owned be different than the videos subscribed to? Wouldn't patrons be accessing both the same way? So the benefit to owning would mostly be seen if we no longer subscribe. So that's exactly right. Your patron, if you were to do subscription to own, it's not going to see the difference between what's part of your subscription versus what you've purchased outright, or maybe something that you've purchased through a different Alexander Street collection that's unrelated. It's going to be seamless experience for your end user. What it does mean is that you're getting an immediate return on the cost of your subscription, so that you're protecting your investment. Should you need to cancel your subscription, you're building a permanent collection of videos. And then you also know, occasionally, obviously, rights change. Occasionally, our third-party vendors lose their rights to stream a video, and so we have to pull them. But if you've purchased a video outright, then you don't have to worry about a title disappearing. So it's also a good way of protecting your investment, and in terms of getting your patrons to buy in and be excited about a platform. Then you know, even if you have to cancel the subscription, you have content still, and also that you're protecting content that you get access to. And additionally, Avon is something that our users our libraries have been subscribing to for a really long time, and so one of the big ways that we see is it really just is just an additional feature to all those libraries who've been subscribing to Avon. What can we do to make this an even more beneficial solution for your libraries? And because we heard so much about the importance of purchasing, we felt that this was a nice way to make sure that you could blend the benefits of subscribing, getting access to a huge number of content, with the benefits of perpetual rights, which is that you get to have, in fact, perpetual rights to certain key content. I hope that helps answer that question.
This trio of questions tend to involve current subscribers or current customers for our video content. So I'll loop them together. One involves if you own ASP video collections, because we of course have our research collections in dance and opera and world history, etc. how does that work within PDA and with Academic Video Online Premium? The important takeaway is that there is no duplication of costing. For example, there's no opportunity for a title which you own or subscribe to in a collection or within Avon, that if you add a supplemental PDA collection, which you can do, and we certainly recommend for certain types of content, if there is any title overlap between the two, the subscription or owned model overrides it. In other words, you don't end up paying for a title twice. We automatically prevent that from happening. Do we weed the titles? We do not weed the titles ourselves. The only circumstance in which a title may be removed from a given collection or from Avon, which again is very, very rare, because we negotiate this in the agreements with the IPs, is that if the IP for some reason is required to withdraw a title from the collection. But part of our role as a publisher, as a provider of content, is that we secure the rights in perpetuity to those titles to prevent that very outcome. And when we begin a relationship with an information provider, we do it with the intent that we do not want to lose any particular title.
A couple questions have come in about public performance rights. And so the answer is yes. With Alexandria Street content, you get public performance rights. So we just ask that as long as you don't charge a fee for attending the screening, you can go ahead and play those. And in fact, a lot of libraries I know have used that as a way to drum up when they get excitement, when they get access to, say, the Criterion films or a great new documentary. So certainly you can feel free to do that. Someone else was asking about simultaneous use. And so with all of our videos, your patrons can use unlimited simultaneous use. They can have off-campus access through Easy Proxy, etc.
I'm going to make an assumption here that perhaps with all of the discussion about how exciting the feature set is within Avon, that it's obscenely expensive. And I'm here to tell you that, in fact, it is not. The average cost per title, and this is a nice key simple metric for the number of titles that are in the collection versus the actual average subscription cost paid, is roughly 22 cents per title. So our current subscriber group to Academic Video Online Premium pays on average 22 cents per title, and that includes 1 full year's access with unlimited streaming to that title, and of course the ownership credits to the choice of titles they have at the end of the subscription term, and that's an aggregate. Pricing on an annual subscription basis for Academic Video Online Premium starts at $3,400 per year, and that includes the entire collection with the ownership rights, the unlimited streaming, and a feature we haven't talked about yet. We also offer for subscribers to the collection what we're calling the media uploading and hosting service. We are offering a free service for you, the librarian, to upload content from your local institution onto our server for viewing by your institution, your user community, or the world at large, and you control the access rights. For example, if you have content that was locally produced by your institution and you want it viewable for given classes or given programs, you can upload it and set the permissions accordingly. If you have content for which you have streaming license rights to it, but you don't have the facility or the ability to upload it yourself or a server in which to put it, you can use ours free of charge. And again, setting the permission for the user community, your institution, other institutions, or the world at large. If you have content that you would love for the world to see, perhaps a student video, anything that you find that would be beneficial for promoting the institution or for benefiting research worldwide, you can upload it onto our server. It goes onto a customized page that you create, free of charge, and you set the permissions to worldwide access. This, again, is a feature that is included with the subscription to Academic Video Online Premium.
Someone else was asking if there is a way that titles, maybe you have DVDs and you want to double check and see if it's in one of our collections because you want to try to migrate your physical copies to digital. Someone else was asking about if they could download a full title list to either PDA or subscription to own, which is known on our site as Academic Video Online or Avon to own. If you go to alexanderstreet.com, you can search by title. It'll let you know what collections things are part of. So say you have a physical copy of The Corporation or Trouble the Water, and you want to go ahead, type in Trouble the Water, you'll be able to see which collections that video is part of, and which will include PDA or Avon to own if that's an option. So you can go ahead and do that. You can also download a title list for both of these options right there on the website. And I'll also put right here our email addresses. If you have any questions either that we're not getting to or that you think of afterwards, or your fellow librarians have when you're sharing this information with them, please don't hesitate to email myself, Kay Caldwell at alexanderstreet.com, or Keith, K. Allen at alexanderstreet.com. And so if you're having trouble finding that content on the website, I can just send you over those Excel spreadsheets, the title lists, or whatever the case may be.
One final note, for customers who have VAST or any of our subscription collections, for example, Opera and Video, American History and Video, World History and Video, etc., the process to upgrade and the cost to upgrade to Avon, the Avon to own, you will be amazed at how little it costs to upgrade to the enormous 48,000 title collection. We have equipped all of the sales team with an instant tool that they can come up with a quote for you to migrate to the larger collection, and they can do it very quickly for you. And you'll be amazed at exactly how economical it is to upgrade to Avon. And that would include Avon to own with the ownership credits and the immediate service. Academic Video Online Premium is available on annual subscription or multi-year subscription basis if you choose. And again, the upgrade process is very simple and very economical. For information about the media uploading and hosting service, details and instructions are available through the account management team at Alexander Street. Go to alexanderstreet.com/video for further details. Excuse me, it's alexanderstreet.com/streaming video for details. I left out an important word.
Hi, this is Kelly. I'm the Director of Marketing. I also just want to mention that for both PDA and Academic Video Online Premium that subscribe to own, you can sign up for a free 30-day trial. So if you just want to check it out, check out the bib, look at the content, just go to alexanderstreet.com/PDA or alexanderstreet.com/Avon. Pick the one that sort of sounds like a good fit for you and fill out the form, and you can just get into the content and check it out.
And if you have any questions about any of this and you're not sure who your rep is, you can email either Keith or I, and then if I'm not your rep, then either one of us will make sure we get that question onto the right person. So don't feel that you're lost in a sea of of information. And someone else was asking earlier if they could get copies of these slides. We're going to make those available as a PDF download if you want to take a look at those slides and be able to share that content.
This response is for Julia Martinez at San Luis Potosí. The question is, do we have content in Spanish? Not only do we have content in the Spanish language, but our subtitles within the vast majority of the content within the master collection are available in 5 different languages, and the user can select the subtitle language of their choice. We do offer content in language as well as multiple language subtitles.
And someone else was asking, sorry, and Nell just recently asked if you already own a lot of Alexander Street collections, how would you implement either PDA or subscription to own? And now I know you guys at VCU have a good amount of our content, and the experience is going to be seamless. Our back end is going to recognize what you already have access to, either through a purchase collection or maybe a purchase single title. You don't have to worry about any duplication in that regard. And what's nice is that everything's cross-searchable. So maybe you own Opera and Video, and maybe you own Human Rights Studies Online, and maybe you also want to subscribe to Academic Video Online. Your patron is just going to be able to see this as a video solution, and they're not going to know the difference of where things come from. They can just know this is where I can go to get a whole bunch of video that's going to suit my needs, and they can browse and search through there. So I know that there's really a whole bunch of questions still remaining. I would encourage you to keep them coming, but also feel free to let us know via email if there's anything that we didn't get to. Some of these are very university specific, and so probably what's going to be best is if your rep can help you dig in to the specifics in that regard.
Absolutely. Kylie is right that our sales team is equipped to be able to answer your questions regarding the combining PDA with the academic video online premium product to add specific titles to the collection on a PDA basis. So there's any permutation that you wish within our array of products is available, and it's very straightforward. The good news is that we have flexible options to meet your needs while also offering the breadth of coverage with the academic video online premium product, but also to accommodate specific interests in collections and content that may be available on PDA that you want to use in that particular model. For those folks asking whether or not VAST would be discontinued, VAST is still available, of course, for renewal. However, I would encourage you to contact your sales rep because it's highly advantageous to upgrade to the Avon to own product because the costing is very similar. The amount of content is roughly twice as much, and then the ownership credits are built in, and as is the media uploading and hosting service. So it is very much a very fundamentally different and superior collection to VAST at a nominal difference in cost.
And with that, I just want to thank you all so much from Keith and I for sitting through and listening to this information. I hope there's some useful takeaways for you. And again, thanks for spending this time with us. I'm going to turn the floor back over to Adam and Mark.
Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thank you so much. I'd like to this is Mark from ACRL. I'd like to take a moment to give our presenters a virtual round of applause for spending their time with us today and sharing some great information on PDA and subscription to own. So thank you very much. And as a reminder, we have recorded today's program, so be on the lookout for a follow-up email from ACRL and Choice that will include instructions on how to access the archived version. Thanks again to all of our participants for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the session, and I hope you have a great afternoon.